making a practice schedule, okay? This is another thing that when you have a lot that you're working on at one time, okay? So I found my practice schedule. This was actually last spring for me. And I make a new one with each, once I finish a recital series or orchestra concert, then I create a new practice schedule. And I like to do, especially depending on how much music and how hard, I start with a 3-day schedule, meaning that I would practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and rest on Sunday, okay? When I get closer to a recital, like if I'm 2 weeks away, I'll make a 2-day rotation. And then as I get a week away, I want to know that I can play the whole program and have the stamina to do it. So last semester, or last spring, I was playing for the show Into the Woods. How many of you know that or have even heard it or played any of it? Okay. It's ridiculously hard, and it's not just hard with the music, but it's hard counting and keeping up with everything, because when you play for a musical, you're going along, you're counting fine, and the singer will skip a measure ahead, and the conductor will go, measure 19, you know. But in order for me to be able to fit everything in, I just took the book, I divided it into 3 parts, that's how I did that. Then I was also working on the Lieberman soliloquy, and so you can see that I wanted to do that every day. I was also doing a chamber music recital, and so I took my chamber recital pieces and divided those up, and then we were working on Firebird in orchestra, and so you see I did Firebird every day because I needed to. One thing I've noticed too is, like, let's say you're playing a concerto and a sonata. I found, don't put the first movement of the concerto and the first movement of the sonata on the same day, because it tends to be the first movements tend to be the longest and harder at times. So I found when I tried to do too many first movements on a day, I was tired by the end of my practicing. I also do this if I'm preparing for an audition. So I'll take however many excerpts, and I think, you know, even for the smallest orchestra now, they're asking 15, 20, 30 excerpts. So I'll just take them and divide them up, and I'll try to put the ones that are most difficult for me not on the same day. The other thing that I do with this, so with my college students, they have to pass a big jury. They have to do scales every semester, but when they get to where they're going to start taking 3,000 level lessons, they have to be able to play their major and all 3 forms of minor. So then I will divide up the scales among 3 days. I don't know about you guys that teach, but all of my students want to do their flat scales, and they do not want to do their sharp scales. And so I make sure I mix that up. I make them do the chromatic scale every day, because we need to do that. One student, she was a young student, she said, when do I get the chromatic scale checked off? And I said, never. You're just going to work to get it faster and faster. So that is basically how I practice in a nutshell. It takes a while to be this detailed, but you will make more progress if you do it in short little segments instead of just seeing the black notes. The other thing I want to say too is if I was going to play this partita, okay, I would also, I divide the music into my 3 parts. Okay, so I don't worry so much where the phrase is, but I literally count the lines, and I divide it by 3, and then I will do that in a day. And I try to start at the end, because every single student, not every, I mean, you guys may have some amazing students that do everything you say, but mine don't always do that. But they'll want to start at the beginning. I'll go, okay, and they'll know the beginning so well. And I'll say, okay, well, no, let's do the last 2 lines. And they can't play the last 2 lines. And I said, you've got to, in your practicing, start at the end sometimes. I had a student working on like one movement of a Handel sonata. It was 2 pages. She had the first page just down lickety split. And I said, okay, well, can I hear some of the second page? And that was not going so well. And I said, well, have you practiced that? Well, no, I really like this part. And it's, okay, that's great. The other thing is you don't want to spend time on the parts that's easy for you. Work on what's hard. So I think that's it. I wanted to be brief, and if we have any questions,